I was known as Jay and Annette from New England. Annette was from Vermont. I was from Massachusetts. And I met her in a little tiny Bible school up in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. And we started seeing the same kind of things when we were going to school. So we got to know each other, and we were really even talking about getting married someday. So then after school, I ended up going down to Tennessee to live with her brother, who was living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And he was going to Covenant College up on Lookout Mountain. So he said, come on down, and I've got all kinds of work you can do. So here I was, just a young 18-year-old, and I got in my little car and drove down. It's the longest drive I've ever drove at that time. And I thought I was going to some bug tussle little town in Tennessee. I had no idea Chattanooga was a big city. So I went through Chattanooga, up on Lookout Mountain, and when I got to the house that they were living in, her brother was living with like 10 other Christians up on Lookout Mountain. And so I was going to be able to live with them and all chip in on it's like a little community kind of thing. And then, so before I left Massachusetts, my Christian friends up there had a little going away party for me. And there was a man that showed up there, and he said, you're going to Chattanooga? You need to look up the Vine House and the Yellow Deli. Those people love God with all their heart. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I will. So I wrote it down, put it in my wallet. So I had that with me from, 1,200 miles away, and I headed down to Tennessee to live with her brother. Wow. So her brother wasn't there when I got up on the hill. And so I was waiting for him, and all of a sudden this man showed up, and he was affiliated with the college or a friend. And the first thing I said to him was, hey, you ever heard of the Yellow Deli and the Vine House? And all of a sudden he said, yeah, I've heard of it. You need to stay away from that place. And I'm like, wow, really? Oh, thank you. But really, it made me want to go even more. I knew that if anything was really, there was a sense in me that if anything was really of God, probably some people would have a hard time with it. So I put it in my pocket. And so her brother came home, and it turned out her brother was already going to the Yellow Deli. A lot of students were going to the Yellow Deli, the first Yellow Deli on Brainerd Road, and because it was a place open 24 hours, and people could study all night. So he was already going. So I started going there, and then Annette came down, and her sister was also living in that same house. And she worked at Chattanooga Choo Choo as a waitress, and her sister worked at Howard Johnson, and I was doing yard work for people that owned Rock City and different wealthy people around. So then we started going to the Yellow Deli.
Right, yeah.
And I'll never forget this one time. We went to the Yellow Deli, and Desha and Priska came up to the table. And we looked at each other and we said, do you know anybody? I said to them, do you know anybody that loves God with all their heart? And they exploded. They exploded like, we do! We love Him with all our heart! Because at that time in our life, we felt like we were like dried up crackers. You know, like we didn't
really know what to do with ourselves.
Yeah,
Christianity was kind of dead. Was it really what we wanted?
Well, we were looking for the one way.
Yeah.
Like, the Jesus movement, the one way. There's got to be one way. Because that's what we always would hear. So we were so thankful when we realized that. So I tell people now, I said, hey, I brought my girlfriend into the first Yellow Deli in 1975. And we've been married for just about 48 years now. And we've been part of the Yellow Deli. And this life has grown, the revelation, the understanding that we have as a people, as a family together, as a witness that can demonstrate what love is really about. Caring for people, and that's all we want to do. And it's still that way. So, we started going. We went to all different places. Went to Critical Mass, we called it, out in Warner Park, where we would all share our hearts. It was like an explosion of life. And that was so exciting to us. And it still is. And it's not like some nostalgia, oh, back in those days was so great. Because right now, it has the same spirit as there. It's so marvelous. And we've gone through a lot of things as a community. We were in Tennessee. Things were happening here. A lot of persecution here because people didn't like that we were living together. They would rather just go to church on Sunday. So it turned out that we ended up leaving Chattanooga and going up to where she grew up in Vermont, because her family was up there and they had heard from us and others about the life in Tennessee, and they wanted the life. And it was a wonderful opportunity to go. We never thought we'd go back up north. But we were so thankful. Our Father spoke to us that we should leave Chattanooga for that time, go up to Vermont where it was so cold for the Southerners. It was not easy to go to Island Pond, Vermont. It was like 40 below zero in the winter. There was a lot. It was like 300 of us that moved up to Island Pond. We were happy because we were from there.
Yeah.
And everybody else was happy too. We all pitched together and did all kinds of things. Learned cottage industries, and we had a print shop there, and we had a woods crew. We had many, many houses. So we're just so thankful that we're here for this event. We live in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and we have a beautiful deli there too. And before we were married, I told her, I said, it's not going to do any good if we get married unless we have the same heart. We had to have the same vision of what we wanted to do with our life. And that was to give up our life to serve and be whatever the God of creation wanted us to be. And now, we have 6 children and 30 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and we're so happy to be here.
When we went to Bible school, we realized that it seemed like things were so mixed up, as far as how they saw the Bible, different things that we would read, and it's like it was a lot of people were like divided over it. And we thought, well, it seems like it should be understood, just one way, But it just made us really want to look for something else. We weren't satisfied with that. And so when we met everybody in Chattanooga, it was amazing just how together they were, friends, living together, just helping each other, understand what our Father's heart really was. And that's what really made us just fall in love with everyone there.
It was a full-time life. It wasn't just,
Right.
going to church, but it was becoming something, becoming
Right.
a people of his own possession. So it was all your 40 hours a week that you it's not just like a work, your secular life and your
Yeah.
spiritual life. It was all inclusive, and it made sense to us. That we wanted that. We wanted full time. It wasn't like, oh, just go be a missionary or something. We wanted it to be our whole life, not just once in a while giving full time. And it's really possible. It's really possible to have your whole life grounded and just full time serving our Father.